A pleasant evening to all of you, sisters and brothers. This evening, the pastoral team will share our short reflection on stewardship. Each one of us will be sharing a particular element of stewardship. But before giving you, my brothers, for the reflection, let me first tell you the reason behind why we are doing this episode and the coming ones, the other episodes in our parish community. There are only two reasons. The first one is we want to stay connected with our brothers and sisters in our parish community. Using the platform of social media, through the facilitation of technology, we want to maintain and deeply related with each other. We have to do something despite our limitations in order to maintain our connections with you. And secondly, of course, we want to share something that would help us continue our reflections on matters related to our faith and life. The pastoral team might be sharing something about stewardship, but the coming topics will also discuss matters, concerns related to our life. And so we want to approach and make sense of our faith in a more holistic and integrated way. So as I invite you, sisters and brothers, to be with us this evening, I would also like at this time to invite you for the coming episodes or for the coming presentations, which will involve our different ministries in the parish. So without much ado, I will now give you the brothers in the pastoral team reflections on the elements of stewardship.
How do we understand stewardship? Stewardship is a way of life in which we recognize everything as coming from God and belonging to God. We are not owners in the end of anything in this world. We have been gifted by God, and so we are privileged and blessed because of the gifts that we have received from God. Because we are not owners of these gifts, we are only stewards. We take good care of these gifts, we nourish them, we develop them, and we put them at the service of God and the good of our fellow men and women, our own goods, the good of the world. Two of the greatest gifts that we have received from God are the gifts of life and vocation. I would even consider that life is the greatest gift that we have received from God. The life that God has given us is a participation in the very life of God. That's why every life is sacred. light. Every life is unique, and each and every one of us has been gifted with this light. And so we must be thankful for the life that God has given us. And we must nourish this light. We must develop this light. And we must allow ourselves to grow in all the areas of our life. Physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, in all areas of life. Because the glory of God is a man fully alive, as Saint Irenaeus has told us. The life that God has given me and you comes from God and belongs to God. Even this life is not my own life. It is God's life within me. I am just sharing in this life of God within me. And so I must live this life very well, according to God's purpose and design. And I must live my life at the service of God and of the world and other people. And that's why as we live this life, it is important that we discover our vocation in this life. God has a vocation for each and every one of us, not only the sisters, religious, and priests. A vocation is a calling by which we live our lives here on earth in a particular way. A vocation is also connected to our particular mission in this world. God has called us to live in a particular way, and God has entrusted us a particular mission in this world. God has created you to do some particular service. He has given some work to you that He has not given to another. You have your vocation and mission. You shall do good. These are words coming from St. John Cardinal Newman. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, at the end of life, God will be asking us how we have lived our lives in earth and how we have discovered our vocations in this life and really fulfilled these vocations for God's greater glory and for the good of humanity and of the world.
So po sa katangian ng aming buhay bilang mga Pransiskanong relihiyoso na namumuhay sa isang bubungan ay ang to hold things in common. Wala po kaming personal na inaari. Lahat ng bagay, maging ang bank account, must be at the service of the community. Ito po ay bahagi ng aming vow of poverty na inuutos ng simbahan, pero para sa aming mga Pransiskano, meron pang pinanghuhugutan kami kung bakit kailangan we hold things in common. Yan po ay ang pagkilala ni San Francisco ng lahat ng bagay, what we are and what we do, and what we have, ay biyayang nanggagaling sa Diyos. Kung ito ay biyayang nanggagaling sa Diyos, Diyos ang may tuturing lamang natin na nagmamay-ari. God is the sole owner of all that we are and all that we have. Therefore, the vow of poverty para sa amin ay hindi lang isang buhay na maralita, isang buhay na dukha, kundi higit sa lahat ay ang pagkilala na ang Diyos ang may-ari and therefore we have to renounce all ownership. Ang pag-aangkin ng anumang bagay para kay San Francisco, yung po'y paglapastangan sa Diyos dahil lahat ay biyaya sa Kanya. In our language ngayon na ating pinagninilayan, ang tawag po natin dito na we renounce ownership, that God is the sole proprietor. Ang ibig kong sabihin ay ang Diyos ang may-ari, tayo ay mga katiwala, tayo ay tagapangasiwa, tayo ay tagapamahala. Time, treasure, and talent. Ang oras po ay isang bagay napaka-elusive concept. Lahat ng mga philosophers have endlessly debated on the reality of time. Masasabi nating it is a mental construct na nagsusukat lamang ng simula at katapusan ng isang pangyayari o isang bagay. May nagsasabi namang time is very relative. Depende sa inyong pangyayari or frame of reference. Kung ikaw may sakit, 60 seconds is very long. Kung ikaw na may nag-i-enjoy, 60 seconds is too short. Kung ikaw na may napaka-engross sa iyong gawain, ang bilis ng panahon. Kung wala kang makakabuluhang ginagawa, ako ang haba-haba ng oras, ang bagal-bagal nito. Pero if you are in love, nako, you do not exist in time. Para bang wala ka na sa oras na parang ayaw mo na itong matapos. Kaya pag-usapin po ng kaptiwala ng oras, hindi natin siya maihiwalay sa ating ginagawa, who we are, and what we do. Especially with our treasure and talent. Kung meron po isang bagay na inaangkin natin unconsciously that we are not fully aware of, yan po ay ang oras. Inaangkin natin ito una sa pamamagitan ng pagpapaliban ng mga bagay na pwede nating gawin sa kasalukuyan. Bukod sa pagpapaliban, ang din paggamit natin ng oras na walang kalidad. Yung magpepetik-petik lang tayo sa ating trabaho, we do not do our best, give our best and energy to what we do. Paano wala tayong passion sa ating gawain? Yan din po pag-aangkin ng oras. O halimbawa sa ating mga relasyon sa makal sa buhay. Hindi tayo nagpapatawad, pinagpapaliban pa natin na pwede naman tayo magpatawad bago matulog ng gabi. Pinahahaba pa natin, sasabihin natin, time heal all wounds. Yun po ay pag-aangkin ng oras. But lalong higit, ang pag-aangkin po ng oras ay ang paggamit nito sa ating accumulation and hoarding of all things. Yung tayong ang lahat ng ating energy at oras ay nagugugol upang tayo makapag-ipon at makapagtago. But bukod dyan, inaangkin din natin ng oras kung ibinabaon natin ang ating talent. Hindi natin siya ginagamit para at hindi natin pinaparami para sa kapakanan ng iba. Ang oras po napakahalaga na ating pwedeng ibahagi. We need not have treasure or talent, but if we have time, magagamit din natin ang oras na yan ayon sa may-ari nito bilang mga katiwala. Yung pong pagbabolunteer natin sa mga gawain ng pangkomunidad, pagdalo sa may sakit, halimbawa sa mga nasa kulungan, ang lahat pong yan ay isang maliliit na bagay na may suturing natin tayo ay mga faithful stewards.
It was agreed with the pastoral team that each of us will say something in a few minutes about different topics. The one that was given to me is about talents. You know, speaking of talents, I cannot but think of the Gospel of St. Matthew, about the parable of talents, Matthew 25, verses 14 to 30, which speaks about the master giving different talents to his servants. One he gave 5, the other 2, and the other 1. And so in this parable, we can say that God has given us different degrees of talents or gifts or skills. But of course, this has to be developed. And so we have talents, for instance, in writing, in speaking, talents in innovating, in researching, in different subjects in the school like math, music, and sciences and literature and others. But all these talents are very, very important in as much as it serves not only yourself, but especially when it is used for the development of the community. In other words, it is meant to be shared not only for oneself. That is the intention of God, because we're called to be co-creators of God. That's how we become co-creators, when we use all the God-given gifts or talents in order to improve our community, our society, our church community, for instance. You see, it becomes alive when everyone shares, participates, whatever gifts they have, so that it can be used to improve one's situation in life and that of others too. My dear friends, God is the source of all gifts we call talents. But these will not be harnessed or developed without our participation. We will be experiencing sacrifice in order to make this bloom or flower bear fruit, whatever gifts you have. We need to have this passion to use these talents to really build our Christian community. This is what makes the world beautiful when everybody tries to share generously the God given gifts to them.
Why do we share our treasures? Our money and possessions, our treasures, are gifts from God that we are asked to care for and generously share. It is important to share our treasures for two reasons. First, because all the good things that God made, including money, are meant to be shared. Second, because each of us needs to give. We need to give our money to individuals and families, to church and other charitable organizations, because I believe sharing our treasure is one way of expressing our gratitude to our loving and generous God. So I think this is the beauty why we want to share our treasures. The treasures that God has given us is not to be kept for our own personal needs that will gratify all our desires. But the treasure was entrusted to us, even though if you say that these are the fruits of your sacrifices, that's why you have this big amount of money, so to say. But I do believe before you do hard work, you recourse to God's table. And it's because you humble yourself, asking the Lord's blessing, He granted it. Most especially, He will give you more, especially if you are sharing the treasures that God has given you to other people, especially to our brothers who are in dire need. I was very happy to note that in our parish, we are doing this kind of ministry of helping other people. Even in this time of pandemic, I noticed that many people within our parish are sharing their blessings, especially those brothers and sisters who are in need. And we know that the fruit of giving, God will not, close His arms every time that we come also to Him and ask for help. Why? Because He knew that you and me, whatever treasures we are not keeping for ourselves, but we are sharing to our brothers and sisters who are in need. This is a very beautiful practice, and if we put that as a part of the dynamics of our lives, that we should not get tired of giving whatever we have, because God never get tired of giving every time we ask from Him. So to end up also my sharing, I would like to again extend my gratitude to all of you who are in the world of, or embracing the world of, the value of goodness and generosity. And thank you for your constant support and love to what we are doing in the parish, most particularly helping people who are in need. And rest assured that we always pray for you and your family. And rest assured that we always lift up all your intentions to God. Never get tired of sharing your blessings to other people. And may God bless you all.
Hi, Good day to all the viewers of Santuario di San Antonio Parish, special segment on stewardship. In simple words, stewardship could be defined as safeguarding material and human resources and using them responsibly, and a generous giving of time, talent, and treasure. But being a Christian steward means even more, especially reflecting on it from the perspective of the Holy Father's recent encyclical Fratelli Tutti. The Holy Father Francis took the title of this encyclical from Saint Francis of Assisi's admonitions to the first Franciscan friars to regard each other and everyone to whom they were sent out as humble friars to serve, as all brothers and sisters, just as siblings. Pope Francis looks to Saint Francis not only for his radical adherence to Christ, his love for the poor, or his gratitude for the environment, and so many other factors for which in 2013 he took the name Francis upon his election, but also because Saint Francis, the poor one, expresses the essence of the virtues of fraternity and social friendship, which Pope Francis highlights in this encyclical. It is a profound message that calls each one of us to a deeper understanding of social friendship, community, and our shared responsibility to promote the common good. It does not just ask us to open our hearts to love beyond borders. It also calls on us as children of God, disciples of Jesus Christ, the members of the body of Christ, the Church, to facilitate a universal culture of encounter, culture of life, culture of dialogue. Pope Francis discusses Jesus' famous parable of the Good Samaritan, going deeper into the golden rule. Do unto others what you would want others do to you. And applies the lessons learnt not just to our own individual hearts, but to international relations in terms of how we care for those who are suffering. As Christian stewards, we receive God's gifts gratefully, cultivate them responsibly, share them lovingly in justice with others, and return them back with increase to the Lord. As Jesus' disciples and Christian stewards, we recognize God as the origin of life, giver of freedom, and source of all things. We are grateful for the gifts we have received, and we are eager to use them to show our love for God and for one another. We look to the life and teaching of Jesus as role model and guidance in living as Christian stewards. Jesus calls us as his disciples to a new way of life, the Christian way of life, of which stewardship is an integral part. But Jesus does not call us as nameless people in a faceless crowd, where we could easily be lost without any identity. He calls us individually as well as collectively by our names. Each one of us, including clergy, religious, lay people, married, single, adult, child, has a special personal and collective calling, a vocation.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No? Can you hear me now? Good evening, sisters and brothers. Isa pong maganda at pinagpalang gabi sa ating lahat. I'm going to share with you a short reflection about stewardship of nature, of environment, of ecology, of Mother Earth, or our common home. But let me begin by saying or telling you a story which I just recently encountered. Alam niyo po, pagkatapos kasi ng pandemya, hindi pa tapos ang pandemya, nung lockdown, when we were allowed to travel, I thought I should do something meaningful, relevant to me personally, and hopefully to others. And this actually pushed me to be involved with our sisters and brothers, the indigenous peoples, the Aitas in Butolan, Zambales. After several visits in their community, isang hapon po nagkikwentuhan kami ng isang leader. And of course, we were discussing a lot of things about how to develop their community. But to my surprise, this, of the many things, of course, he told me, this really caught my attention. Sabi niya sa akin, alam mo po, Father, lahat ng ikabubuhay ng tao ay ibinubunga ng lupa. God provided everything for us through the lands. Hindi po tayo pwedeng magutom. Konting sikap, konting tiyaga, we will survive. At hindi natin kinakailangan mag-accumulate, magtago, o ano paman. Because every day, there is a blessing. Kinakailangan lang natin makita yon, mapahalagahan, at makikinabang na tayo sa biyaya ng Diyos. After that encounter, on our way back, it was the time when I started to understand better the Genesis story. Especially when it says that God created everything from all the resources for the birds and for all the people. Kaya po, when we talk about stewardship of nature, I have these things in my mind and in my heart. Una po, Mother Earth, nature, or our common home is not just a raw material for all that we want to do in this world. They are not raw materials that we should exploit, that we should only use for our good. They are more than raw materials. And they are not just also our partners in order to support human life and human existence in the world. They are not something we have to control, we have to dictate or manipulate. It's not just about survival. It's not just about give and take. Because nature, the earth, is our brothers, our sisters, according to St. Francis of Assisi. But why? Why they should be considered our sisters and brothers? It is because We all came from one creative source, the creator of everything, the owner of everything that exists in this world. Kaya po, if everything belongs to God, and the whole of the earth, the universe, are created by God and belongs to God, then it will change our relationship and dealings with nature, with the earth, or with the environment. Simply because the implication now would be, if they are our sisters and brothers, we eventually and should be accountable for each other. We become responsible for each other's life. So hindi lamang po ngayon importante yung buhay ng tao, kundi importante din yung buhay ng bumubuhay sa buhay ng tao. At ito po yung kalikasan. So in this way, mga kapatid, the greatest challenge is first of all to examine how we look at the material world, the created world of God. Second, how are we supposed to relate to God's creation? Because as Saint Bonaventure would describe it, they are vestiges, they are images of God. They are expressions of the qualities of God, of the nature of God. So in nature, we see God. Kaya po, pag pinutol natin halimbawa yung isang puno, it's not only the life of a tree that we kill. We're also killing the one who created the trees. When we destroy the mountains, we are also destroying the source of the mountain. And we can give more and more other examples about this. Pero mga kapatid, let me put it straight. Caring for nature should not only be a responsibility for us. I would go further saying it is actually a way of praising and honoring God. So we go beyond responsibility and accountability. It is our way of honoring God, respecting God in all of God's creation. It is not only nature that is in pain when we do something bad. It is also doing something bad to God. And so God is in pain. But of course, humanly speaking, the pain of Mother Earth, the pain of nature, it will always be the pain of the poor, of the ordinary people. And therefore, it calls us to a life of solidarity in our respective communities and to a life of honoring and worshiping God when it comes to a relationship with our Creator. And so, my brothers and sisters, let us begin examining the way we look at the world around us. Let us examine the way we relate. Because caring for the earth is a call to a new way of loving, new way of doing, and new way of looking at things. Thank you, sisters and brothers, for your patience and your presence. I hope and pray that the reflection, the sharing, of the pastoral team, of our pastoral team, brings something to us to ponder and to take into consideration in our daily life, in our effort to respond to God's invitation to being of service to our community. The reflections shared with us hopefully will invite us to something essential finances or material resources, but it is about who we are, our identity as disciples of our Lord Jesus Christ. So to sum up, I would say the spirituality the spirituality of stewardship is a spirituality that calls us to be grateful to the many blessings that the Lord gave us and to be generous because the blessings of time, talent, and treasure of our life and of everything is meant to build our community. So hopefully, by being grateful and generous, we will eventually become more compassionate and loving. In every form of ministry, in every service that we do for others, it is always my personal prayer that all of this will lead us and help us to be more loving. This is who and what we are, a loving person to our brothers and sisters. Thank you, and may you have a pleasant evening and a restful night. God bless and be a blessing